This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. Just a quick update. It looks like it's been announced yesterday Meghan is traveling to Switzerland to attend inauguration of the former Archewell Fugazi Public Charities Lost Screen Memorial in Geneva's Place des Nations ahead of the opening of the 79th World Health Assembly. So this scumbag is going to be hanging out with Dr. Tedros, as apparently the focus for this assembly is that countries will tackle a wide range of health priorities throughout the week, including the rising threat of antimicrobial resistance, progress on universal health coverage, and mental health, as well as responses to global health emergencies. So this assembly is really going to focus on recalibrating without the United States. They're still moving forward with trying to put together the WHO Pandemic Response Treaty, where everybody gets onto a global system and your information's being shared without consent of the citizens, essentially giving personal sovereignty away to this supranational body to govern and manage. This is all about control. The most evil thing about these people is that they are targeting specifically the youth because they know that they're impressionable. And in order to get that cognitive security, which is ultimately what they want, as I've explained before in the past, they have to focus on their brains. So what better way to focus on their brains is by targeting mental health and using it as the excuse to now usher in these laws that in America are eroding our constitutional rights, but they don't care. Ultimately, control of the algorithm and control of the information online is what they're after. They want to be able to be the ones telling you how to think, what to believe, how to feel, and what you can say. You know, I go back to saying that this was always about stopping the rise of populism. That's why we have this stupid bitch in front of us right now. She was put there in order to be a part of this evil agenda. You don't believe me? Look at what's going on in the UK. Look at what happened this weekend. Look at how many British citizens have voiced their opinions about these aristocratic elites who worship this globalist plan that is decimating Western society. So, of course, Meghan is going there for a photo op to exploit families who have lost their children to unaliving themselves or ODing or whatever, attributing it to online influence. And Meghan is going to use this moment to continue to keep driving this censorship agenda in alignment with this Agenda 2030. So apparently Sophie is also going to be in Geneva, but there are no details on why she's going out there. But likely she's going out there for this 79th Assembly and representing the UK in a diplomatic capacity. Now, given that there have been so many coincidences and overlaps between the things that Harry and Meghan are doing, compared to the causes and initiatives that the royal family are supporting and championing, there's a high possibility that there is a level of collaboration that has been going on this whole entire time, which is something that I honestly feel deep down inside has been happening. Now, 9 months ago, I did a video, which not many people paid attention to, showcasing this organization, the NSPCC. This is an organization that focuses on helping the kids and keeping them safe, but they have a history of trafficking, Epstein. I mean, just take a look at the video. But in any case, Sophie is the patron of this organization. And at the same time, NSPCC partnered with Archewell Fugazi Public Charities' so-called Parents Network. Now, one would think if the family so hated Meghan and Harry, at least the organization would say, you know what, we're just going to not do business with Meghan Markle based off of everything that we're seeing going on because Sophie is our patron. But no, they were heavily in bed with Meghan and Harry. So the big question that I have now being raised is Sophie is going to the UN for this assembly, assuming. And we know that Sophie in the past has spoken about online harms and getting tech platforms to put more policy into place. She too has been echoing the same message that Harry and Meghan have been echoing. Okay, so now given the fact that we have all of these examples with Harry and Meghan overlapping with the UK government as well as initiatives or causes that the royal family support, and we have unexplained things that the royal family just refused to address as well as distance themselves, Is it safe to say that there is a possibility Harry and Meghan, or Meghan for this trip to Geneva, along with Sophie's trip to Geneva, are related in some way? I think so. Now, before I continue on, I just need to say that this is not an attack on Sophie, because I know that there's some royalists out there who don't like it when any of the royal family are being questioned, especially around motives and reasons. And in this case, concerning Meghan and Harry and their connection to organizations that overlap with the royal family, I think it's fair that we are allowed to speculate, because if the royal family is not going to clear anything up and they refuse to, then that's on them. And I think it's short-sighted to anyone who's not curious, who's not asking questions and just sitting back and accepting the slop that you're being fed and allowing your emotions to be manipulated while believing the garbage that you're being peddled. Just goes to show how controlled you are by these very same people. All I'm asking you to do here is just keep an open mind and be curious, because this drama that continues to go on and on with no resolution in sight is because you're allowing it to go on, because you're not asking questions. You're accepting this bullshit that they are feeding us. We have been lied to, and the royal family does not get a pass from scrutiny. I think at this point in the game, 10 years later, the public has a right to scrutinize and question the royal family. We know that this evil woman is not going there because she really cares about the kids. This is really about getting that narrative control and shutting voices like mine and yours down. This has always been the goal. This was the goal from day one. And I believe that it has the blessing of the UK government and the Crown. That's my belief. As I said many times over, back in 2020, it was all hands on deck to prevent Donald Trump from getting back into office because he threw a wrench in the globalist agenda. You don't think the Crown didn't know what Harry and Meghan were doing here? Of course they did. But anyway, getting back to Meghan going to Switzerland, this was always about rebuilding the online space to get control of the narratives and information, the same way the royal family controls the narratives and optics about themselves with controlling the media in the UK. And this has always been the driving force with Harry and Meghan coming here to erode and undermine the U.S. Constitution. They may not look at it that way. They may say, oh, we're really doing this out of the kindness of our hearts. But deep down inside, ultimately, this was what it was always about. Never forget what Harry said in the engagement interview. From day one, Harry and Meghan told us what they were about, saying that their goal was to help the youth see things in the right way. Well, what exactly is the right way? And that's the troubling thing with these globalists. They have a worldview that they want everybody to adhere to, but it's not conducive to freedom, liberty, and pursuing happiness. And I do think that the reason why they continue to keep bringing this divisive agent of chaos into the mix is because they know, good press, bad press, there will be global eyeballs on it, which will lead to looking at what this assembly is doing, as well as the work of Sophie going over there. I guarantee now more people will be inclined to look at what Sophie now is up to at the UN or in Geneva coming up on the 19th. That's the only benefit to having this trash bag over in Geneva. And it's evidently clear what a hypocrite this woman is, because here she is going to support a cause that's so near and dear to her heart, but here she is putting whoever this child is in this photo in People magazine. Like she really is tone deaf. Or she just doesn't care and knows that it really doesn't matter and enjoys gaslighting the public, because the more distracted we are, the less we start focusing on the reasons why she's going over there and who she's doing it with. Now, the one thing that we need to get away from is caring about these stupid photos. We know that Meghan is a manipulator, but Meghan knows that by putting out these weird photos, people are going to be consumed with obsessing over the little details, looking at the feet of this child and the AI manipulation and photo editing and questioning why she would put out such an awful looking picture of herself, all to paint this narrative that she's unraveling, she's unfolding, and keeping us distracted from looking into the purpose of Meghan going out to Geneva, or how she was even invited, or why she was invited. Now, what did I tell everybody about what Harry and Meghan were going to do with the Archwell Fugazi Public Charity once they switched over to Archwell Philanthropies, now that USAID has been cut off? They were going to go to these supranational bodies or other countries because that's where they're going to be getting the money now. Now, I've done a lot of videos in painful detail going over this globalist agenda and how it affects the royal family. So please, if you haven't checked them out, because it does look like some of these haven't been seen by many, please go ahead and do. Educate yourself to understand the movements that these two are now making that we really do need to pay attention to. Now let's go ahead and talk about who we think is going to be funding this trip for Meghan to go to Switzerland. I think it's safe to say that these two elitist parasites found their new hosts and are latching on to the UN and its various entities like the World Health Organization, UNICEF, UN Women no longer thanks to Donald Trump, but this is where the Harkles are going. This is how these two child predators are going to get taxpayer-funded money, not from the US, but from other governments like the UK, Australia, and all of those participating in this Agenda 2030 satanic plan. Now, I did say last year a few times over that after the fraud, waste, and abuse got exposed and all those bullshit programs that money was being thrown at, as well as USAID getting cut off, we were going to start to see Harry and Meghan shift towards focusing. And I did say I wouldn't be surprised if they focused more on children, especially since we had over 400,000 children disappear in this country under the Biden regime. Am I right? I did tell you that. Well, here we are. Meghan's going to Switzerland tomorrow, and she is going to meet with Dr. Tedros, but you betcha she's getting paid for this. In 2026, the World Health Organization Executive Board is actually ramping up its mental health. Otherwise, I see it as cognitive security drive by spotlighting online harms and bullying as urgent social and commercial influences. And we'll get to why they're so caring about the youth's mental health. But the thing is, this focus conveniently unlocks hundreds of millions of dollars across the World Health Organization program budget in 2026 and 2027, spread through outcomes 4.1 for mental health services, 3.3 for digital transformation, and 2.1 for social influences. Notice how the royal family is focused so much on mental health, men's mental health, Not coincidence, folks. So most of the cash that comes in are voluntary contributions by wealthy philanthropies and cooperative governments looking to wash taxpayer money, feeding a self-reinforcing cycle where donors bankroll the studies and guidelines. The World Health Organization crafts the global standards for platform accountability and content moderation, and a web of consultants, NGOs, and tech partners who rake in the fees, contracts, and future revenue from building the approved safe online infrastructure. This is a money-making opportunity. So now enter in the D-list grifter Meghan Markle, who is stepping alongside Tedros and channeling her philanthropy and showing up and just doing good, where James Holt literally is the mastermind behind this latest grift and assault on so-called freedom and what they like to call democracy. This guy totally gives me Morgan McSweeney vibes, 100%. Meghan will be there to amplify the stories of youth cyberbullying and digital trauma while making it somehow about herself and once again have another opportunity to cry victim of how she is the most bullied person on the planet. Dr. Tedros knows that by bringing Meghan out there, regardless if it is good press or bad press, it's going to get the eyeballs that he's looking for, because ultimately what this guy is trying to do is raise money, since now the United States is no longer giving them any money. So they are trying to raise funds, especially for trying to control the information online. They are looking for certain projects to be funded, and we'll get into that in 1 second. What's safe to say is Meghan's not going to Switzerland to participate participate in this inaugural, whatever, memorial screen bullshit because it's close to her heart is because she's getting paid for it. And these little weasels manage to get their way in where they know that there is a pot of money that they can get their sticky little hands on. And that's because Safe Online, which is an initiative stemming from UNICEF, is focused on this Weave Wellbeing, which is a $100 million collaborative fund. So let me explain to you what this is. You see, Weave Wellbeing itself is the cash engine designed as compassion. You know, the whole fiscal sponsor model. Yes, they're the ones that are going to be holding $100 million that they will be allocating to various contracts, like maybe giving it to Meghan for publicity stunts. But anyway, Safe Online's brainchild, which is this Weave Wellbeing, aims to mobilize $100 million by 2030 for children and adolescent mental health and safety in the digital age. It's complete with foundational research. You know, those Fugazi Archwell Insight reports that Meghan has Jory Craig do? And policy reforms pushed in lockstep with the World Health Organization. And James Holt's involvement is highlighted in the UNICEF Safe Online Weave Wellbeing Initiative report seen right here. So these bitches are exploiting mental health and using it as the core driver and excuse to rebuild the entire online space. Have you noticed a common theme with the royal family, specifically with Harry and Meghan? It's always about the narrative. It's about storytelling. Meghan's always been talking about storytelling. Harry always talks about storytelling. Time and time again, we see Meghan and the whole lot turning personal stories and empowering the youth into policy pressure that opens fresh doors to now high-profile funding streams and impact investments for Harry and Meghan at the end of the day. All the while taking away freedoms from the impressionable youth because they have no idea what they're getting into because you have these two jackholes going in and influencing what they should think and what they should say and how they should feel. This is the danger of what Harry and Meghan bring to the world. And it's not Harry and Meghan doing this on their own. They're in collaboration with a group called Five Rights Foundation out of the UK who keeps meddling here in the United States, who is a key partner that's prominently featured across Safe Online Global's webpage and also Weave Wellbeing materials. These folks, as you know, they're busy drafting global policy handbooks and pushing child rights and the framework that needs to go around it, and conveniently demands stricter digital controls, aka removing privacy as well as controlling information that your child gets to see. This is the exact kind of regulatory scaffolding that lets these stupid foundations, consultants who think they know better than everybody else, and government-compliant tech firms monetize the compliance tools while sidelining and violating freedom of speech. The UK government, they slide right into the funding loop because they are backing the broader online safety initiatives and consultations that align with Weave Wellbeing's goals and feed into the same damn ecosystem. So understand how all of this works together. You have policy muscle and indirect support for aligned efforts like the Online Safety Act enforcement. What it does, it helps sets up ensuring taxpayer-adjacent resources now flow towards the very standards that global philanthropies and celebrities are busy now commercializing. I know I sound like a broken record, but the end game here is to shape youth behavior early by sanitizing the information pipeline to the next generation and steering them towards compliant worldviews on identity, authority, speech, and society. This is what they want to do. This is the cognitive security that I keep talking about. You control the digital diet now, and you lock in long-term cultural and political influence, because this is ultimately what this is about. Meanwhile, the architects behind it, the World Health Organization bureaucrats, the Safe Online operators running this sham at UNICEF, Archwell and James Holt, Five Rights Foundation advocates, and the UK, monetize the whole apparatus through endless campaigns, safety tech contracts for Archwell Fugazi Public Charity, and most importantly, regulatory capture. Nothing generates steadier returns like turning concern for kids into a mechanism for narrative dominance, and then at the end of the day, profit and control. So here's what you got to understand. Not only are they pushing for industry regulation, but they're also looking to indoctrinate with this crap. And they're figuring out a way on how they can force education policy and drive people towards this digital ID to then focus on the health policy. Again, bringing everybody under this central governance. This is about control. And what better way to capture a generation than by focusing and targeting the youth? You know, I encourage everybody to go back and revisit some of the videos that I did in the Stand Up for Free Speech because it explains how these supranational organizations work together and how the royal family have been involved. I mean, it's not a coincidence that a lot of what Harry and Meghan have been doing aligns with this agenda, an agenda that King Charles and the whole entire family support. But it's the way they present the optics, right? On one hand, we have the royal family doing the exact same thing, and they can do no wrong, but they are still supporting the same evil agenda, but nobody says anything. Nobody comments on the support that they give the UN, the support that they have shown in the past to the World Economic Forum, as well as driving this great reset back in 2020. And we can agree to disagree on this, but I am of the belief that this family is certainly profiting off of this horrible agenda in their private investments. Obviously, there's a reason why no one is allowed to know how much the royal family is worth, and that's because they're hoarding wealth. And all of the globalists have been doing it. They literally have been redistributing the middle-class wealth, making it into a two-class society where you have the ruling class and then the rest of us who have to obey and be controlled. This is what they're doing. And this is why they hate Donald Trump so much, is because he stopped that. He stopped this deliberate enslavement. So right now what we're seeing is globalism essentially collapsing and why they are scrambling so hard to get the control of the online space. If they can control the information on what you can see, like how they did back in the day, then they will be able to influence and drive the outcomes of these leaders. And we see how messed up the world is right now because they've been doing this for so many decades. And more people are waking up. If you had watched the Unite the Kingdom rally this weekend, everybody is waking up. These people are so despised because of the damage that they have caused that we've had enough. And they are scared right now. That's why they're so determined to shut people up. They don't want people talking, and that's why Meghan and Harry are so gung-ho on focusing on the kids, is because they're predators. They are ones who will go and groom the youth into thinking that, yes, the world is falling apart and there's so much hate and so much racism, while they're the ones who are perpetrating all of it. Not only am I frustrated, but I'm also angry with the royal family for allowing this con to go on and lying to the public about it. And the fact that we have all of this mainstream media pushing propaganda out and still people are eating it up and believing the shit. Why? King Charles has been a member of the World Economic Forum for decades. He has been behind and in support of these policies that have been destroying the West. Look at all of his realms that he is head of state of. They're all going through the same collapse at the same time. It's not an accident. And it makes me so angry to see these two prey on the youth because we know that they are a part of the Epstein class. These two are the last people that should be near children. You know, I really wish that we could go back to a time before 2016 where ignorance was bliss. You know, before knowing about Meghan Markle, you didn't know all of this dirtiness that was going on. But ever since she came onto the scene, she exposed the whole game. You know, sometimes I wonder if central casting messed up by picking this DEI hire to go and cause so much trouble. But at the same time, I think no, I think she did what she was supposed to do, which was be this agent of chaos. And I said, as soon as Elon Musk bought over Twitter and we found out what had been going on and why we were being attacked so much and censored, then all of it flipped upside down for this couple. That's it, you know? And these two now have to figure out a way to brush this history off, which I am not going to let it go and continue to go after them because accountability needs to be held with what they did here. You don't undermine the will of the American people and just say, oh, you know what? I think I want to go back home. I miss my friends and family. Fuck you, Harry. Fuck you and your bitch wife. Yeah, I'm really sorry for swearing right now, but it makes me really angry when I think about all the damage that not only Harry and Meghan have done, but all of these globalists, including King Charles, for supporting and being a part of this agenda. Not sit back and just accept the slop that the palace is feeding everybody. Again, these are my opinions and I'm entitled to it, but what do you guys think? Definitely leave your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content, but until then, please be safe and I'll talk to you later. Bye!